Just to the agenda, okay?
Take it away.
All right, so I'd like to call the meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Newbury to order. It is 7:02 on January the 22nd, 2014. For the television audience, my name is John Weiss. I'm the chair of the board, and to my right is John O'Connell.
John O'Connell.
Martha Taylor, Town Planner.
George Morse, Associate Member.
And David Powell.
And so our first order of business tonight is to take a look at the meeting minutes that were sent out earlier today. Do I have an order for that?
Yes, you have an order for that.
Motion to approve.
Motion?
Right, motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the ANRs, Mr. Simmons is not going to be here, is that correct?
That's correct. I've heard both from him and from Dana Davis. They would like to postpone the discussion until the next meeting.
Okay. All right. So I actually, the next order of business we have is 101 Newburyport Turnpike. I myself drove by there today, drove in, drove out. But John, do you have anything to report for us
Yeah,
on this?
the situation has changed somewhat. Alan, the engineer that had a relationship with Angelo and his family, is no longer with Hancock. And I don't know anything beyond that. There is another engineer that is picking up the slack. Doug has given him a short period of time to figure out who's on first and to get a grip on the situation. Really, the progress that I have seen has not been anything notable since the last meeting. He did start his cleanup. He's got a good part of the wood out of there. Doug has seen him start work on the siltation fence. I have not observed that myself. I don't know where he did start.
I didn't see anything on that, but then
Yeah, I
again,
haven't seen it. Doug.
it might have been hard to see that today because,
Pardon me?
it might have been hard to see that today.
You wouldn't have
because of the-
seen it because of the snow.
Yeah.
And you really have to kind of get out and walk around to get a good handle on it. But that's where that sits at the moment.
Okay.
When I came past, I noticed that there are now some sort of timber piled behind where they're parking vehicles.
I think that's been there a while.
It's been there for a while.
Has that been
You
there for a
mean just
while?
like timber, like rough timber, not,
Yeah,
That's
not
telephone
huge-
pole kind of stuff?
Yeah.
About trees and
Right.
various things.
That's been
yeah.
there for at least
Yeah.
3 or 4
But
months.
isn't that right on top of the siltation fence and everything?
Oh, yeah.
The front
So
of it.
why,
That siltation fence has not been, to my knowledge, has not been significantly improved. They
so,
have started. Doug has indicated that he has started. I'm telling you, I have not observed it.
right,
And I think Doug and I agree that whatever he's done, it has not been much.
so that would have to be moved
Oh,
though,
yeah.
under, yeah, okay, all right,
That definitely needs work. That's,
yeah, right.
So, this just continues, and I guess, we're
yeah,
gonna-
I'd say that that's a case of the beat goes on and
yeah.
Right.
we keep fighting it.
The other thing that Doug said, reiterated, was that Angelo was going to start removing the wrap, but because the ground is so frozen, that's not going to happen now until the spring.
That worked out well for him.
Yeah, I don't quite get that.
I don't.
It may be a question of the size of his dozer, but you put a ripper blade on a 9 and that would eat that lunch in no time.
Yeah.
Now, if you put it on a 6, that's another matter. It'll bounce it off like,
Right.
I mean, he did have, I mean, I noticed today that he has a bunch of his trucks had plows on them. My guess he's been doing a lot of plowing but. you
he's
know.
also figured out that he can't blast, or he doesn't want to blast. So he's gonna use a hoe ram instead, which he doesn't own, so he's gonna have to find himself a hoe ram, put it on an excavator.
And we still think he might do that this spring?
Pardon me?
We still think he might do that this spring?
There's no particular reason why he couldn't be doing it now.
Yeah,
But the amount of paperwork was more than he wanted to deal with in terms of getting permission to blast.
okay. All right, I think enough of that. On the stormwater rules and regs, we were sent out, well, let's talk about the revision first, and then we can talk about the document that was sent out to us that showed the Concom as the new agent, and also I think we need to talk about the note we got from Joe relative to the Concom taking that over, okay? So, do we have anything new to talk about in terms of the regs themselves? No.
Not really.
Okay,
The only loose end there really is, which still remains to be resolved. We've talked about it, we've kind of reached an informal agreement, but not a formal agreement on the charging for fees.
Oh, right.
For that. That's the very last page. But that's a 15-second thing to type in when the time comes.
okay. So any board members, did they have time to read the document that was sent out? There were 4 attachments to a document that was sent out yesterday. And one of them was the bylaw with putting the Concom there. And that was followed late today, well, no, it's 12:09, so I just looked at it late, I guess. A forward from Joe, a note to Martha regarding the role of the planning board versus the Concom, and has everyone been able to read that?
Well,
Yeah. Joe's
I-
response?
I read it, and in reverse order, his second comment on the silt socks, I kind of agree with him. I'll talk to Doug on that, but we don't include that as a directive. And I think it's appropriate that we do, because there's some places where that's just what the doctor ordered. In fact, informally, we do allow, the Concom does allow it. So I think that suggestion is very good. His point on the first one, I believe to be well taken, but I don't think it's a problem. The Concom has any authority the town wants to give it. It's not just Chapter 131. If the town wants to make it in charge of collecting stray dogs, it can. And it has the authority to do it. This is me speaking, this is not, anything official.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
my reaction. I was planning on giving Joe a call tomorrow to see if there's something in here that I'm missing. I don't consider this to be, I can see his points, and they're good ones, but I don't see them as deal breakers on this. But there may be something I'm missing, which is why I'd like to speak with him.
Well, I'm a little confused. I thought the big point he was making is that the granting authority should remain the planning board, not the Concom.
Yeah,
Right, that's what he's saying.
So you
doesn't
want
mean we have to do it. It
but
just
you're
means
saying,
that's
so
what
you're
he's
saying that you would like to make it the Concom, is that what you're?
Well,
Well,
there's a good argument for it being the planning board. The planning board really doesn't want it, from what I understand. And that's fine, from the Stormwater Committee standpoint, that's fine. The Concom is willing to do it, and there's a number of people on the Concom that are reasonably knowledgeable on the subject, and I don't see a problem with this.
I don't agree that there might be people knowledgeable in one board and not on the other today. However, the boards change. Every year we lose or gain
Yeah.
somebody else.
I
So I
understand
wouldn't
that.
go by who's on the board now and who isn't. I would say what makes the most sense. Do you know what I mean?
I
Because-
do understand. I have had this conversation with Tracy. Her thinking was, well, when this changes, we'll change it. If the pendulum swings the other way, the planning board is hell-bent on doing it and are taking the trouble to learn enough about it to administer it, fine. And the Concom, if we all go brain dead, then, but I think at the moment, Concom is, your suggestion was a reasonable one. And I don't see a problem with Joe.
right, so, David, do you have any thoughts on it?
I did a little digging, and other communities handle this a bit differently, and I think it depends on size. For example, Ipswich handles all of the requirements and applications for permit and all of those things through the DPW, but the actual permit and the permit process in terms of any public hearings necessary is actually the Board of Selectmen, interestingly.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting any of those things, but I'm just saying simply that in a bigger community where you have a department, a DPW department that probably has a secretary or, a clerk,
Just town engineer at the very least.
yeah, et cetera. A couple of other towns, it seemed to be the planning board with specified input from the Conservation Commission. In other words, the Conservation Commission actually sort of sat on any stormwater issue. So, I think, from my perspective, I would think that one of the things that's important here is what are most of the activities, what do they come under? They come under essentially either various orders that may be issued by the Conservation Commission or things that the DPW is doing. And I think anything like that we might be concerned with is going to occur in site plan review.
I think the DPW and communities where it would fall into that department would have a city engineer.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't even think like the DPW for a town that doesn't have a city engineer. would
Even,
go in
even
that
towns
direction.
that don't have town engineers, in many cases, the DPW. West Newbury is a case in point, Athol is another case in point. There's a lot of communities, from what I can gather from all of the seminars I've gone to, mostly that the problem is laid on the lap of the director of DPW. And he has somebody in his staff that looks after it. For example, Newburyport may even be hiring another person when the time comes. I've been in serious discussions with John Eric on this, and he may or may not be looking for another person just to do this.
So, I guess the thing that gets me is this fellow who we've asked to review the regs has made a rather strong statement, not a weak statement, regarding what he believes is the best way to proceed. Never having met Joe, is there any possibility that we could have a conversation with him?
Well, I just said, John, if you recall a moment or so back, I plan on calling him.
Right.
To pick his brain to see if it's something I'm missing on this,
So would he
because I have a
be-
lot of respect for the guy.
Is it possible, I mean, am I going too far on this, am I the only one who is uncertain about this?
I wouldn't bring him in, he's done this for nothing, you know.
Well, I know he's done it for nothing,
Call him
but-
up, John, get his number from,
Well, the only thing I would suggest is Joe in any way aware that we are revising site plan review? Probably not specifically.
I did not mention that to him.
I
'Cause I
would
mean-
guess he's fairly unaware of the general situation,
Yeah, I would guess-
stormwater-wise,
so.
in Newbury, because he's never had reason to get into it.
Yeah, so all I'm thinking is that, our our site plan review now has a lot more teeth and comprehensiveness than it did prior to, or will have. Shouldn't say does, because we haven't passed it yet, but it will have. And I think in some senses, that takes care of some of his concerns.
I think it's a case of, the principle is sound, everything he's saying is right in general, but this is Newbury, and we've got our own set of conditions here, which is why I'm planning on giving him a call tomorrow, see what his thoughts are. And I don't see any reason, John, why you couldn't call him. You might
Well, I
want to
think-
give
I
me
think
a
I have-
chance to
I
talk
have-
to him first,
Yeah,
because
I have to, only because he's making a pretty strong recommendation, and I need to find out if we are different enough that we can somehow still function properly, even though he doesn't think that we would be. I mean, it's as simple as that. Because I'm not sure when he says that the board does X and the Concon does Y, and you say that that can always change, but,
Well, the Concom, there's no state authority for the Conservation Commission to be the enforcing agent of our local bylaw, conservation bylaw. But yet they are, because it's a bylaw and it says so, that the Concom is in charge of that.
right.
And we got another stormwater bylaw, and we're saying the Concom is in charge of it. And that's really about all it takes,
Right,
is a bylaw saying something, and then it suddenly is true.
okay.
DPW is not an issue. He's saying the DPWs object. I have not heard any objections from Tim, and we've had some discussions on this. And I'm planning on walking the subdivision rules and regulations, walking Tim through them.
Right.
Because it'll make it a lot more time effective for him if I'm pointing out the things that I want his opinion on, rather than giving him a big, 40-page document and say, here.
But
He's
most,
got better
most of
things
his,
to
most
do.
of his DPW are on this second paragraph here, dealing with landscaping and snow removal and commercial projects, am I right? I mean, I didn't see it as it related to the other issue.
Yeah, it's
But
a separate.
It's a separate issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kathleen,
Yes.
what do you think?
I think that I'm getting a little confused. These stormwater regs are in place because of the purpose of, what is the purpose again for the stormwater regs?
The original purpose of the stormwater regs, as I understand it, and I was not here then, we were mandated to get an enforcement authority in place legally, which means we had to have a bylaw saying thou shalt not dump junk into the river, and here's what happens if you do. That's the bylaw. Normal practice is when we put a bylaw out, we have rules and regulations that back it up, telling you how to go through the mechanics of dealing with it, who's in charge of what are the rules, what are the design criteria. And that's what we had, and that's what we have revised.
I thought the purpose of this was to fulfill the requirements that were coming down from EPA for the whole NEPDES permits and
Not a
everything to
new
make
one.
sure.
It's got nothing to do
But
with
it
the
doesn't,
new one.
so is it in line with the reporting that we have
Oh,
to do?
of course.
So
Well,
the reporting itself is done by the Conservation Commission, isn't it?
No, it's done by me.
By you?
Tracy signs it, but I do it.
What, by you as a planning board member? or you
No,
as a-
it's me as the chair of the
Yeah.
responsible individual for the
For the
stormwater program.
stormwater program.
Yeah,
Can you see where I'm trying to figure out where all the regs are going, who falls under?
It
So-
was Doug until
Doug was
John.
doing it
So-
for a long time. He
so-
has quite enough to do without that.
So Doug used to be responsible for it, is what I
Yes.
understand, and then this new committee was formed.
Yep.
You're the chair of it, the responsibility has been handed over to your committee.
Yep.
You're in charge of the reporting.
Yep.
And now the question is, as far as the granting authority for the stormwater, is it, no, not the granting authority. What is the,
Yeah,
Storm-
it is.
stormwater
permitting,
Yes.
Permitting agent.
permitting agent. So that's why wasn't it originally, if Doug was doing the reporting, why wasn't it Concom then?
I wasn't here, Kathleen.
So it was
I don't
planning
know.
board.
We just don't know.
So for some reason, there
Well,
was
I
this
can-
disconnect.
Well, the original group
Yeah.
decided that the planning board would be the appropriate person, I
Right.
think, for
Well, and
reasons
based
that
on what
Joe-
we've seen from, well, Joe's comments and others, is that it is typical that planning boards have this
I would have to
responsibility.
agree. You found that out too.
I did, I
everybody.
went
would
through
agree
a
with
bunch and I
that.
found,
And
most
what
of them
we
were
found
planning
in all
board.
of this is that it's unusual for the Concom to have it. However, let's go back 2 months. We all kind of, when we were going over these regs, and John suggested, or I think he suggested, maybe it was others that suggested it, whoever, that this move over to the Concom, we all kind of went, okay, we'll vote for that.
I don't think
So-
it was
so-
my suggestion, but I certainly support it.
So all of
Yeah.
us have been supportive of it, and I have too, until I just saw this note from Joe.
Well, I, for the life of me, don't see a problem here, Joe.
Well-
John, I really do not. I think Joe's points are well taken in the global sense, but I don't think they
Okay.
have a lot of
So
problems
you
for us.
call him tomorrow, if I can get it to him, and I'll get his phone number after this, I'll call him and just.
Yeah,
find
by
out.
all means.
Yeah,
I want to talk to Doug first to see if
Right.
he's reading this the way I am.
Sure.
Then I'll call Joe, then I'll email you, John,
Okay.
to
Good.
say go for it.
The history is that the state required us to do this. And it was done by a little committee on which Ed Dearden served as the sort of rep from the planning board, Doug and
Mary Rimmer,
Mary, I think, yes,
And Marlene.
and Marlene. And what happened was they announced to the planning board that it would be the planning board's responsibility. And the planning board, on which I was serving at the time, said, "Who says?" Okay, because we were a little concerned that we were being visited with something that we had not, frankly, had time to either review.
And so you hadn't vetted it yourselves?
Really not, no. I mean, frankly, we were comfortable with the fact that Ed is a very experienced engineer, even though he was retired at the time.
Who's the VP of CDM?
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah. But he wasn't entirely happy with the stormwater bylaw, I sensed. And I was never quite sure why, and I think it was because it was a bit of a cut and paste job.
Well, okay.
So, you know, that's the history I can tell you.
All right, we'll follow up, and if John is right, then we can talk to Joe, and we'll see what happens, okay? All right, we'll do that. So the second item here, though, is the subdivision rules and regs, and you were just gonna recast those, I think?
yeah, I marked up, and I only got it to Martha yesterday, so she
Oh, okay.
obviously hasn't had a chance to do anything. But I marked up the comments. Some of them were things that Martha had to answer.
Okay.
Had to deal with. One of them was, I think it had to do with bike pass, was David's comment, and you were gonna write something on that.
Oh, you're right.
I don't have it with me.
Yes, yeah.
You were also gonna revise the section when it talked about the width of the roads, the length of the cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, that doesn't need revising. It's already been revised. It's just that never got sent out to you.
Oh,
The cross-section.
The cross, they were,
Yeah.
you're right, they weren't sent.
Yeah, and that's, we gotta check and make sure that and the section where the narrative says, the table of
Right.
road widths and site distance and so forth, make sure that's in sync.
Okay. Anything else on this? And so, will we bring this forward in February sometime to have a discussion further on it, or what? Okay? So at the next meeting in February?
We have what, one more review, hopefully, you're saying?
Well, yeah, because these are the final, this would be the final changes that we think are gonna be made.
They still need to be reviewed one more time.
Yeah, I think so. So, and we have a number of things, but this is something that we all want to get out. So, Martha, by the middle meeting in February or something like that, whatever the meeting in February is. Okay.
Is that doable? Okay.
Well,
Give you an opportunity to scream, you know?
well,
Well, if we're going to.
if we're going to get this done, I think you have to have it done by the,
There are two options. One would be to try to, and this will be pushing it, I think, try to combine the public hearing for the stormwater and the subdivision with the zoning public hearing. The other would be to have them track a little separately, do a separate public hearing for them after town meeting.
I thought we were trying, the goal was to do it all at once, right?
The
I'm
goal,
trying.
Yeah, for
the goal.
financial
Yeah.
right,
purposes.
although we have enough money in the budget to do it either way.
Okay. Anything more from anyone else on the subdivision rules?
Oh, I do have something. When we're going over, oh no, that's site plan review. Did we go to, we're not,
Haven't done that
yeah,
yet.
okay.
On Colwell Farm, Martha and I met with 4 members of the board along with the property manager 2 weeks ago tomorrow. It was a very productive meeting. After discussing a lot of the repercussions of the letter that we sent regarding the feasibility of moving forward on relinquishing the easement. The board decided that the next step would be for us, the town, and them, the board, or other, and probably other residents, to plan a meeting in early February to walk the property and to determine where trails might be possible. So, so sometime in late March, we ought to, talk to Doug and whoever else is, what's his name? You pointed him out to me, I forget.
Oh, Dan Streeter.
Dan
yes,
Streeter,
yeah, mhm.
and, and to meet and find out who from their board wants to do this, and we'll do a walk and see if we can figure out a trail. So I think that's a first step, and I don't know that it, I don't know where it will go, but it's, I think, a positive first step to maybe getting something done here.
Now, they're on notice that this is what we're doing, formally on notice, or?
No,
It was their suggestion.
it was their suggestion.
Okay,
It was, I mean, it wasn't acrimonious.
okay, good.
It was, okay, how do we move forward?
Okay,
And after kind of going through a number of options that
Yep.
didn't work,
okay.
it was, okay, it looks like we need to figure out how to make this
Figure
work.
out the
The-
least painful.
Yeah, the
way.
residents have some real concerns about security, and the proximity of the trail to their homes,
Yeah.
as I would.
Yeah,
And I think that once we know that that's one of their major concerns, that as we go out and do this walk, we can be sensitive to that, that's all. So I'm sure this will be a process that will go on, I think, for the spring, and then we'll figure out what to do next. So it was,
Now, I got a little confused with the months that you mentioned. You said early February, and then you said sometime
No,
in late
I'm
March.
sorry. early, did I say early February?
Yes.
Yes, you did. That's all right. I thought you weren't going to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you don't, and why didn't you, when I said early February, say something?
I was waiting.
She wrote it down.
So kind
maybe
of you.
spring would be a
So
good
kind
generic
of you.
term.
Early April.
Okay, I would suggest we get out there as early as possible. And I'm not suggesting we necessarily do it with you absent, that's not my intention, but having done a fair amount of this stuff, we're gonna need to be there more than once, I suspect. And even in April, we are into tick and other bug season, we're also into a time when it's gonna be very wet. So if we could get out there in March, even if the ground was still frozen, I think it would be productive.
Okay. Well, why don't we, I'll so notify Jerry and say if there's any, if that makes sense to him. Of course, it could still be snow on the ground, too. So we can see if we can do something in March. Thank you. Any other comments on that? Okay. Then, potential zoning amendments for the spring annual town meeting. First of all, the issue is the schedule.
Oh, one of those, right.
March 5th, we need to vote to refer the zoning amendments. March 6th, submit them.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that they need to be all worked out, but we need to at least have,
Okay.
some sense of what they contain.
So it really is, like 5 weeks from today, maybe 6 weeks from today, right? So I don't have my, right, that's probably 6 weeks.
Yeah, about.
That's what it looks like. 22nd, then the 29th. Yeah. Me too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 is the 5th. Yeah,
Yeah,
6
okay.
weeks.
Okay, thanks. And then the Board of Selectmen refer the amendments to Planning Board for public hearing. The Planning Board votes to public hearing set on the 19th. First newspaper notice on the 1st of April. Notice posted in Town Hall, 1st of April. Notice mailed to, what's DHCD? Health and Housing and Community Development.
Yeah, right.
MVPC and Plain Boards of Budding Towns on the same date. Second newspaper notice. Public hearing must be within 65 days of number 3 above, okay? So we're scheduling on April the 16th? Is that a Wednesday?
Yeah,
So
that would
tax
be the-
day is Tuesday, huh? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. It would be the second Wednesday in April.
And so based on that public hearing, then they can, the selectmen can turn that around in 1 week? Is that right? They don't need 2 weeks?
Well, they'd be voting, that's the week before they hold their meeting. And I've guessed, I don't actually have a time on, a firm date on when they're signing the meeting, so I'm
Okay.
trying to be a little conservative here. And Tracy said that the warrant is she's actually closing the warrant on February 17th, but I've alerted her to the items that we're going to have on there. I think she just wants to know what's going to be
Okay.
included.
On February the 17th? What?
Is it you-
February the 17th? What's that about?
I think it's largely budget, but she also wants to get a sense of what warrant articles are going to be going
What
before the
does she mean by closing the warrant?
I haven't actually had a chance to talk to her. I've emailed her and told her what we're planning to do.
I don't think she can legally do that, as far as I remember. I think it has to be open, well, it depends what it means,
Yeah,
what
I'm
she's
not-
saying. But it has to be open within a certain number of days of town meeting.
Well, it has to be posted
No, it
7,
has to be open to challenge, basically. I think you're fine. Anyway, I would be thoroughly against that.
So that would be 3 months.
Yeah, it's absurd. Maybe some items, but you can't close the warrant 3 months before a meeting.
They normally don't do that.
So maybe she's meaning something else.
It
So
might be, but
let's-
anyway,
Let's
this
find
is-
out. Okay. And then town meeting is on the 20th of May. Okay. Any other comments aside from David's, which is a good one? No? Okay, with that, let's move on to the medical marijuana bylaw. So the subcommittee, which is Martha, George, myself, and actually we had a recruit with Linda. And Linda and the three of us went to Portland last week
Tuesday.
and met with a city council member from Portland who was one of the major proponents of the medical marijuana bylaw in Portland. And he both was involved in the writing of the legislation and also in the zoning that then permitted it. And we met with him first and had a nice, long discussion about what Maine was about. And then after that, went to a facility run by Wellness, I didn't bring it with me.
The Wellness
The
Connection.
Wellness Connection, which operates a facility that is very impressive. It looks like a doctor's office, or a combination between a doctor's office and a spa. It's roughly 6,500 square feet. And they also operate 3 other facilities in Maine. And then they have their main growing facility in Auburn. And in Auburn, it's like an industrial building. And in the industrial building, they grow the marijuana 24 hours a day under light, 365 days a year. And they basically provide the marijuana to each one of their facilities. They have the total, that facility is roughly 20,000 square feet, of which 10,000 is roughly under cultivation. Excuse me?
That's right.
And then they probably, between the 4 facilities, they probably have 12,000 square feet of dispensary. Portland also just recently made legal recreational marijuana, but we don't know really the implications of that yet. I don't know what that meant. While we were there, we were having a conference with the woman who's the executive director, and we did observe 25 or 30 people coming into the facility. This was a rainy Tuesday at around 11 o'clock. Most of these people were older, and when I say most, 95% were over the age of 60. And there was no one who was young, who was coming into the facility. So I will tell you that we came away very impressed with how this facility is run, professionalism. And so, following up on that, we met yesterday, the subcommittee, and we're preparing now to get ready for the workshop that we have announced for this Saturday. And we'll present a slide presentation of a lot of what we did in October, but add to that the information we've learned about where we are in the state of Massachusetts with, 150 applicants is down to 100, and they're making a decision on the 31st of this month. There's 7 applicants in Essex County. And so what we're doing here with our proposed bylaw, if we get it forward, really has nothing to do with what's going on now at the state. It has to do with the future. And so we'll explain all that, and hopefully have a good participation. And so, again, those people who are watching, this is this Saturday, January the 25th at 10 o'clock here at Town Hall.
No, that's fine. Good coverage.
Martha?
Oh, we're working on, David, are you going to be able to attend? Are you planning on attending?
You want me to bring my toys?
Yes,
Yes.
if you can, please. And
Yes,
I'll
yes.
email you the PowerPoint
Okay,
beforehand.
sure. Yep.
Any comments from anyone else?
There.
Review of revised site plan review revisions. Comments?
Yeah, I do, John. I have some comments, questions, and edits, which I can either cover now or go over with Martha at her convenience.
Well, I'd like to know what your,
Okay.
I mean, if it's not going to take forever,
Oh, it won't
I'd
take forever,
like to know what your concerns and questions might be.
In the review thresholds on page 1, 4A,
Wait, are you in the bylaw or the rules or the?
special regulations.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And where are you?
That's the bylaw.
That's the bylaw.
That's the bylaw. Okay, where are you?
It's paragraph A4, review thresholds,
Right.
subparagraph A.
Mm-hmm.
In the first line, it says, level 1 applications will be subject to review by town staff, followed by planning board review and approval. Does that mean you get approved anyway, one way or another? It should be, and we replace approval with action thereon, or
Action.
approval or disapproval.
Uh,
I think
Agree.
action thereon is fine.
I like action thereon.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Before you go on, should we do this sort of easier? It goes through.
Each
I had
page?
something at on 3 before that, on 3A, yes, A3. I think this probably came from somewhere else. I don't know that we can apply site plan review to anything educational. That it's an educational project. I don't know what that means. Does that mean education? Because we can't do that, because education isn't subject to zoning, like the Governor's Academy or the schools. But, so why is an educational project in there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I know that I've had discussions with Ginny about uses which are exempt under
Yeah,
A Section 3.
right,
Including cultivation of marijuana on agricultural property greater than
Right.
5 acres. And I believe that it can't be unreasonably regulated, but it can still be subject to site plan review.
Right. Right. But I'm not sure if that has to do with the right to farm issue, isn't it? Or am I
No,
missing it?
no, I think that's, I don't think it's just the site plan review. But if I may, let me check with Ginny and see whether she feels that this, I mean, this will have to be reviewed by her.
Well, would a private preschool, that would be education.
Yes, but I guess two things occurred to me. One was the question about education, and two, what an educational project. You see, you're using an adjective there, and does the project mean building or grounds, whatever, or does it mean what they're doing in terms of education? You follow
No, it would
me?
be a school, you know, like a project at the Governor's Academy.
Well,
had
no,
them
you
come
see, I
across
mean,
it before.
what?
We had them come here before for when they were doing the building up by the tennis courts.
Yeah, but that was courtesy.
But I'm just saying, is this applicable? Would this be applicable now?
And project actually doesn't just refer to educational, it's a commercial project, an industrial project, an institutional project.
Well, unfortunately, yes, but the word comes in front of the word project. You see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying.
So we might want to move it away from, because I was
Project.
also wondering why, if we're going to do a whole list, it would be better if it were alphabetized, which would put it after commercial. See, I read it as or educational project.
No,
Oh.
project goes with all of them.
No, I understand that, but I think, you know, I just think there's an issue which we need to solve, okay? And I think it's a Ginny question, and I have a feeling the answer is no, but anyway.
Okay, I'm okay with that. All right, next page.
What do we, where we got here, civil fees.
Next page, top line, subparagraph 5, there's reference to dumpsters. Any changes in loading areas, dumpsters, lighting, landscaping? Does that mean dumpsters locations or just dumpsters? It would seem to me any change in the location of dumpsters.
Yeah, I think it's location.
We said loading or dumpster areas. With that,
Dumpster
Okay.
locations. Okay. On subparagraph 8, second line, after the word land, I would insert a comma before but. That's just an edit.
Anybody else have any other comments on, this is important. I want everybody to feel comfortable with what we've done here, because this is the level 2. We have made some adjustments here. We've brought some things down and increased others and the like. And is everyone comfortable with the numbers and the thresholds that we have here? Okay.
Yes. On page 6, at the top, subparagraph T,
Wait a minute.
yes.
Anybody have anything on page 3? No?
What's the heading for this, because I don't have paging.
Decision criteria.
Okay,
My
thank
page
you.
is a different number than yours, just so you know, it's a section.
Mine are better. Where are you?
We'll just keep going.
Okay. So, nobody has any comments on the decision criteria? And then on, I have on page 4, it says conditions of approval. And all we really did here, or you guys did when you were drafting this, was you took one big paragraph and you created 6 of them. Then on page 5 of 6. The only question I had on this, Martha, and it's not I don't know how to get to this. In the performance guarantee, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The sentence beginning with "the board" may also require,
What page is that, John?
I'm on 5 of 6.
What
No.
section are you on? What number?
Performance guarantee 10.
5
10.
of 6.
Should be 7
I'm
of
on
9.
page 7.
Yeah, are we on another document?
I'm on page 7 here for that.
Well, what, I just printed it out.
It's the printer. It has nothing to do with the page. It's the printer, how your printer margins and.
Yeah, and also Safari does strange things to it too. I'm just looking at it.
I'm sure it's the same document, you're just on a different, the
Right.
way it's printed out.
All right, under 10, performance guarantee. So, I just wasn't clear on the board, this sentence that's in, like, in the middle of the paragraph. The board may also require that an amount be included for land restoration not having to do with the construction of improvements. I guess I don't understand that. That an amount be included for land restoration not having to do with the construction of improvements. Does that mean, like, not site improvements, but building improvements? Maybe that's what it means. You can't find it?
No, I found it.
Oh,
Because we've made changes here. We used to require bonding for anything on the property, including the buildings. And we've taken the buildings out, and we're restricting it just to site improvements and improvements that are required in the public way.
Right, right.
So is that what that's supposed to reference or not?
Is this a case of the disappearance of the developer financially or otherwise, where we're left with a mess?
I think so.
And all we want, and that has nothing to do with the construction of the improvements, because we're not gonna go ahead and build it. All we're gonna do is clean up the mess that was left by whoever started a construction project.
But
I
it's,
mean, they won't all be like the Turnpike. I mean, even a good construction job
No,
looks
no,
like
we-
a dog's dinner in the
right.
stages.
but it says that the amount be included for land restoration.
Right.
Well, for what then, if it's not for the improvements?
Well, could it be that in the process you've torn the site up with equipment?
Yeah.
And it should be reseeded, or you had to take a
Exactly.
tree down to get the
Okay.
bulldozer on?
And so the
or-
improvements then are, we think, what does that mean then?
I interpret that as being the improvements that were approved as part of the site plan.
As part
Yeah.
of the
It was
site?
building the building, doing the paving and all
So
that. We're
all-
not gonna spend money to do that, because why should we? But we are gonna spend the surety to clean up the mess so that it looks presentable. It's not an eyesore.
Restore the site to
Yeah,
sort
as,
of original.
as close as you can. You're not
Basically,
gonna
the
replant all the
contract
trees,
backs
but
out.
you can make a big difference.
beautify it. That's what the funds are for.
Maybe it is incidental a word that might help us there? Incidental damage or something like that?
Do you remember, was this in our original language?
No, I think this was actually in one of the other bylaws that I looked at.
We
Well,
added this after
Yeah,
101.
if you would just go through and see if you can figure it out. I just,
We could just come right out and say, well, it says include land restoration, right off the bat. Says that something has happened to the project.
not having to do with
Because we're not
construction
gonna
of,
spend-
and just further define the improvements. Maybe that's the way to handle it, with buildings, pavement, et cetera. Although, why are we taking the money if the project,
I thought it was just for the lands, like John and David said, like if they come in and they disturb the property and we have to, and they're not moving forward with the project, how to just clean up the site and put it back so it's presentable.
Yeah, this isn't a subdivision where you got people building houses and the road is not finished.
So,
That's what we
yeah.
want them
Right,
for-
right,
to
but-
complete the project.
but-
We're not completing this project.
but let's go back to the first sentence, or the sentence above it. This surety is to cover costs of non-building construction, including, but not limited to, any street disturbance, utilities, erosion control measures, stormwater management measures, and other on-site or off-site improvements which present a public health or safety hazard for the nuisance, if left incomplete or improperly constructed. So the reason we're getting the surety then it says, "The board may also require that an amount be included for land restoration not having to do with the construction of the improvements." Okay. I guess I get it,
It's the wording.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're okay, we have one surety, and then we also may do this other. That's what it's saying.
But if you can't understand it now, the people in the future aren't gonna understand it. We need to clarify the
Yeah,
wording.
so I think you need to clarify what the improvements are. Okay?
Well, largely so the professional cost estimator can help us with that. He
Right.
can say,
Right.
you look as though you're gonna have some incidentals here.
Now, there's just a typo on, this is 10, I was just reading at 10A, 10B, 10C, in the middle. And then it says, if the planning board IR,
IR isn't or.
okay?
Where are you?
If the planning board, yeah,
10C,
4 lines up from the bottom.
if the planning board,
Oh, that's a
comma,
typo.
okay?
Can we go back to A for a second? John had suggested last time that we remove the 15% contingency, which I've done, and then we had a discussion about, possibly the board adding it, the contingency itself. And
Yeah.
I left that out only because this says that it could be increased by the board,
Okay.
so I wasn't sure if it kind of
Well, I
covered
thought you'd
the
have
board.
it scratched out, so the 10%,
Yeah, I
thought that had
scratched out the
stayed
You do have it.
scratched out.
It's out.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but you'd like to uncross it,
No,
or you
no.
want to leave it there?
Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that
Which
that
one?
paragraph
It's
said what
okay,
you wanted.
it's okay
wanted
with
it to
me,
say.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm,
Criteria vehicles has to be corrected.
No? Where is it? This is,
see that contingency is something that somebody can play games with.
Vehicles has to be.
Thank you.
Welcome.
we're not boring you, are we?
Oh, no, I'm the new resident here,
Oh,
Welcome.
yes.
Well, welcome.
yeah.
Actually from Colville Farms.
Ah,
Oh, are you?
So I was doing a little homework and.
Who's doing what to whom? Yeah.
Yeah, I got the drift, attending one of their meetings, so I'm encouraged by the change of tone. That's a good word.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, we are too.
yeah, and so I look forward to possibly meeting you, come spring.
Good,
Great.
good.
Well, welcome
Go,
aboard.
we'll go
Welcome
for a
to
walk.
Newbury.
Yes.
See you.
Can we get your name before you go?
Yes, you can. John Gibson.
John
Great,
Gibson.
thank you, John.
It's an upright name. Where are you?
It's in decision criteria,
Gibson,
which is number 6,
Yeah.
paragraph D,
make a hell of a guitar.
subparagraph D, where it says,
Martha,
it's just an edit.
6D. Maximize safety for pedestrians and vehiculars,
It's
Could be
vehicles.
vehicles.
all right?
It is vehicles.
Yeah,
With the
okay.
U? With the U in it?
No, she's got
Okay.
it.
Oh,
She
right,
knows.
I've got it, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, anything else on, where were we?
Can I go to conditions of approval, B?
We're,
That's number 7.
Oh,
you going back now?
yeah, he's going backwards.
You know,
You just
I gave-
jump forward.
I gave you a lot of opportunity.
Now, boys.
Conditions of approval.
B, just on the second line, delete the comma because it should run it right through without a comma.
With site plan approval shall require, is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, that's a deletion indication.
Yeah, it's a delete.
Now, one more,
Where?
no, 2 more. It would be in 13 on the last page, performance guarantees 13.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yes.
Third line down, it says $300 for each offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before that,
It's
it's
written
written
as
out as $100.
100. So we changed it from 100 to 300, and you forgot
Right,
to change it,
You have to write
Martha.
the 1.
Right.
Did you see that?
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yep.
Then on 14A, it says the planning board receives a record plan. Does that mean recorded, record, or recordable?
No, record
Record
plan
plan.
is new speak for as-built drawing.
Right.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all right.
Insurance companies do not like as-built, nor do their attorneys.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments?
I think mine will have to be on the rules and regs part.
Okay. Then let's go to the, well, it's not, it's the site plan review submission requirements and
Yeah.
procedures.
Yeah, right,
Okay?
yeah.
So, again, I will not go by page, because that doesn't seem to work.
Okay, submission requirements.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, does this apply to both levels of
You mean the fees?
the fees?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my question.
That was my question I was waiting.
No, no,
Well,
that's my
tough.
question. Sorry.
I was actually just figuring out, I think the board should have an idea of,
My kids were-
right now we have one fee for each of them. I was gonna say the same thing, we shouldn't have the same fee, but do we have an idea of how much it costs if you're gonna go through the process? Because right now we have a fee for $500 for submission, and a $750 deposit for consultant. I don't know what we normally spend for a consultant. And then what's the cost for certified abutters in a public advertisement? Just to get an idea, if we're gonna ask people to do this, how much are we asking them to put forward?
Right, it's a good question. It's
Mhm,
all of
yeah.
my questions.
right,
And it really should be tiered. We should have one for
yes,
phase one and one.
yeah,
for-
we really should.
So, do you have that information, Martha, about how much it really does cost?
Well, the consultants have been, I think, Chrissy's project was about 1,800, I think. 101 was quite a bit more.
So let's say average
So-
2,000?
So let me go, so the not her consultant, but our
Our
consultant.
consultant for the review.
Wow.
Was how much?
It's about 1,800, I think.
101 was?
No, 101 was more, because we ended up, remember, we went out
Oh,
and did the
okay,
test
yeah.
pits, and he spent that.
67, 69 was 1,800.
What about for an abutters, to certified abutters, how much does that cost?
For them to actually get the list or to do the mailing,
To list a mailing, does it cost anything to get the list, or is it free?
$15.
$15 for that, and then a mailing is,
Mailing depends on how many butters you have.
and what is the certified mail, like
Certified.
2,
No, it's like
250?
4, I think it's 4 something now.
and you might have up to at least 4, so like $25, right? So right there. So now we're up to $40 for that. And advertisement, is it one advertisement in the paper or two? And the average is about,
Again, it depends on length, it's $51 per column inch.
what was the last one
So
we,
you have 4 column inches, it's $200 times 2.
times 2, so now we're up to $400.
Well, were we paying for that,
No, we're
though?
not.
No.
No, see, we're
The
not paying
applicant
for that.
I wanna know what the applicant has to pay
Oh, the
though.
applicant,
If we're
okay.
gonna make, if we're gonna
Yes.
make them go through this
Sure.
process,
No, I
I think
agree.
it's only fair that we realize how much we're asking them to spend.
Absolutely, right.
And this is in addition, we're not, and that's whatever they do for their own engineering fees, I mean, that's a cost on top of that, but.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
So if we just add up what we just spoke about, I can just do that right now. That's about, $3,000. We have $2,940, so $3,000 right there.
Ooh, where'd you get that from?
Huh?
I got that from a submission fee of $500.
Yeah,
The consultant, we're saying, I'm gonna say average around $2,000 for our consultant to review their work.
oh, but you think well, a level 1 is gonna,
I'm just saying, we're going off of just right now, probably a level 2 we're looking
okay,
at,
all
right?
right, fine, yep.
And then we're looking at the butters list, let's just say there's 4 butters, 25, so $5, what was it? $15 for the abutters list, and I said, let's just say $25 for the mailings, that's $40. And
Right.
then Martha gave a quote of, let's say, $200 for advertisement, and we need 2 of them, that's $400. So you add that together, that's $2,940.
Great, thank you.
Right, and what we say here is that the fee is, the deposit is $750, but I guess you're saying that we've traditionally gone over the $750.
Yes. But there have been some that we haven't had, like 90 Hanover Street, we didn't actually have any consultant review.
Okay.
What was 90 Hanover Street?
North Reading Transportation.
Okay. So.
I think we should spell that out, all of those, the advertising.
But they change, how can we spell them out?
Do we say anything? Where does it say, don't we say?
No, I mean, the cost
Not a
change.
place.
No, I know that.
I crossed out the notification, what was in here, C and D, just because they show up later
Ooh,
under
excuse me.
procedures.
Hmm.
And they're not applicable for the tier one or the level one.
So how would we cut this if we looked at tier one, which is now 1,000 square feet to 2,000?
Well, your submission fee is supposed to cover the cost for Martha's time. So for a level 1 to a level 2, she would spend, do you think, less time or about the same time?
Maybe even more time.
Yeah. So originally I thought that fee would come down, but after thinking about it, it's not really gonna change. The submission fee.
The admin fee?
Yeah, her time is supposed to be covered by that submission fee. That's the whole purpose of it. Right, Martha? Is that correct?
Yeah,
That-
I mean, it never is, but it's supposed to
It-
help offset the.
Right.
I just think that you have to have different costs associated with the tiers.
So then what happens is in level 1, you're getting rid of the advertisement. So right there, you're saving $450, let's say $440. So that's the difference. Your consulting fee is going to be much less in a smaller project than it is in a larger project.
Hopefully.
So what we could do is it would only make sense to the average person, not really understanding what goes on in this, is that they would expect a level 1 submission fee to be less than a larger one.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you up the cost then for a level 2.
Only if it's,
That's a good thing. I leave the level one at 750 and.
Well,
Go up
it's
with
submission fees 5, I'm talking about the submission
Oh,
fee. You're talking about the consulting?
administrative fee? Yeah.
You're talking about
Well,
consulting?
I'd raise them both. I'd leave these at level one as shown and make the admin fee 750 for a level two and
and the deposit for consultant review, 1,000?
make that 1,000. Yeah, that works for me. That's only a deposit and that it remains to be seen.
$500,
How many hours of your time is that?
what's that? 10,
33.
well, it's like 16, 2 days. Is that about right?
You know, it depends so much on the project, it's really hard to say.
Yeah, 15 hours, 2 days. But we're looking on just on the average. You know, some are gonna take more, some are gonna take less, but just on average. So look at one of our small projects. It should be a parking space review, right, for 4 parking spaces?
That should be,
You cost us more
Minimal
than
amount?
33.
That should
You
take
cost
2
us
days.
more than
So that's what I'm
33. I
saying.
don't think that
that's right.
covers it.
So I wonder if the
Is that
fees
right?
should,
No, that's just my.
That's just your salary.
You don't wanna have that many fees, though.
You know, I think
Each
it
of those.
burden.
No, but I mean-
You could average it
Design
out.
firm.
Yeah.
So I would think figure 40 at least.
So if you look at our level 1 criteria,
There's overhead.
we could probably
there's
come
no
up with
profit.
what we anticipate the
overhead.
amount of time
Yeah.
it
No
might take
profit.
her.
It'll be more than in a
process
private
this
firm because you have to
application.
cover.
I was thinking,
like,
all right, hold, excuse me, so I'm sorry, but.
Right.
I was thinking 300 for level 1 and 600 for level 2, based on the idea that 2 things. One is 300 for level 1 is about 10 hours.
9, yep.
Right, 9, 10 hours. So you can make it 325 or something. And doubling that and knowing that they're going to incur quite a lot of other costs as it goes along anyway
But
for
what's,
the level 2 people, okay?
Okay.
And they're almost certainly most of the, what shall I say, the burden of a level 2 is probably going to be picked up by the consultant in terms of sheer just time. don't know, yeah.
I think it's really important, if the purpose of this submission fee is to cover the time,
Mhm.
that we look at this and we say realistically, okay, if we're gonna set it at 3:30, on average, can she complete that in 10 hours? Does that make sense? I don't know.
The flip side is that site plan review is what we're trying to encourage, is business, industrial and commercial. So maybe, I'm not sure what I think about that, I'm just throwing that out.
You have site plan review though in every community. Us having it in Newbury isn't gonna deter them to go to some other community because we have site plan
What
review.
is that, how does that connected with what I said?
You just said you don't want to deter people from business-wise because
Right.
we have site plan review.
Right.
And I'm saying it's not gonna
Well, I'm
deter them.
saying, let's not make it any more onerous than we have to, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that.
I don't think anybody wants to do
Yeah.
that. I think we're trying to simplify it, but at the
Yeah.
same time, if the purpose of having this fee is to cover her hours, let's make it realistic. Let's just not because it sounds good.
Well, let me ask the question, is the purpose of the fee to cover the salary?
I think it's to help offset it. It's not gonna cover it. And as John pointed out, there's overhead too, which I didn't.
Yeah, it's not a $33 thing, it's probably 40 and 45 and rising.
I mean, most fee structures that are established are supposed to be tied to reality. You're not supposed to just say, well, the fee is this because we like it. It's supposed to be tied, so if we think that, 10 hours is a reasonable thing to do for tier 1 and 20 hours is reasonable for tier 2, then we ought
Well,
to.
maybe it's 40, maybe it's 400 and 800.
Yeah, but but I think that it should be tiered and it should be tied to,
I agree, it should be tiered, definitely.
one is really a small project. And it's unlikely, and the other one could be as large as 20,000 square feet. So, that, we want to make sure that, your time is covered. Then the only other concern I have here is what happens for the small, tier 1 project that's just increasing the number of parking spaces by 3.
Well, that was the thing I was gonna raise, is that we actually, don't we say that we can waive a lot of stuff for a level 1?
Yes, we do, that's right.
And so are we even thinking that we could waive
Does it say that?
the fee?
No.
We can't waive any fee though, if it's gonna take Martha 3 hours.
Well, you can adjust it, though.
Yeah, you
can
can
adjust
adjust
it.
it, but why
Well,
would
when
you
I
wanna-
say wait, yeah, sorry, adjust it.
Does it say that?
It doesn't say, no,
I don't think it says waive or adjust.
This is something you put in your annual report too, Martha, isn't it? How much we've collected in fees for these projects? To help justify salary increases.
I don't know where it says this, pre-application conference. Waiver of submission requirements. Upon written request, waive any of the submission requirements listed in the plan. Why don't we just say waive or adjust? Then that answers
yeah,
what we want to do.
Right.
Anybody else?
mhm.
No,
Is that okay?
I agree with that. The question is, how is that gonna work out then? When someone submits it and they have to submit their fee with their application, how are we gonna figure that out at that time? Actually, how's Martha gonna do that at that time?
Well, I don't know, but I think we'll be able to do it. It to sound like that, but
So maybe you submit the fee, maybe we return funds afterwards?
yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna make an overture and say, here's what we think. And you're gonna look at it. We'll look at Martha's work schedule, we'll look at the project, and we'll say, well, here's what we think. And we'll come up with a reasonable solution.
Either way.
But don't they have to drop off the application prior to the meeting with the check and everything? That's what I'm trying to figure out logistic-wise.
Well, they file at the meeting, but there will have been discussions before they get to that point
So,
to review the application, and so we should probably have a pretty good idea.
so at that time, you'll be able to
Yeah,
figure that out?
right, I
Okay.
think so,
So it is.
I'm comfortable with that then.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
Waive or adjust, that's on B4.
And are we gonna put down a, number then? So obviously, do we pick our 2 different fee?
Well, David has suggested 3 to 6 or 4 to 8, and I'm happy with either one.
Same here.
I was gonna say
Don't care.
350 to 7.
I'll do that too,
I'll do that. I think that's good.
okay?
350 to 7.
Split the difference, okay, cool,
All right?
yep.
And then what about the down payment for the consultant work? Does that stay the same?
Say
I think that-
750 and 1,000.
750 and 1,000?
And
I
that
think
might
that's
be
reasonable.
waived.
I think that's, based on what you just told us, I think that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and it might well be that that's not even an issue, that we just know that, you know, we're not gonna need anybody.
Just, should this, item 3, why is that?
The town planner,
No, I guess that's okay. I was just looking at the administrative fee, which is really for an amendment to the decision of the site plan review. But isn't,
oh, $100. you mean.
yeah, that's $100, but that's okay.
Yeah,
And then the deposit for the, that's okay too. All right, all right.
The other question is do we have an idea, I don't know if we, you know, it's very dependent on the project, but the requirements to have engineering drawings from an engineer for some of these small projects, do we have an idea what it cost would be?
Oh, for a small project, it's,
Couple
gonna-
thousand?
oh, no, I think you're looking probably, it's hard to break it out because today, the good land's gone for the most part, so you've got a Conservation Commission filing. If you got a Concom filing, you gotta have a stamp on the drawing. Because they gotta have somebody whose license they can take away if there's a misrepresentation. It's not the skill level involved, it's the fact you can nail somebody. But that's appropriate too. I would say you'd be starting in the $4,000 or $5,000 range at, for a simple project that requires a Concom filing. You do essentially the same thing for Concom as you would for this.
So, what did we say for the level 1 consultant fee we deposit?
$750.
$750?
Yeah.
Oh, 1,100. So to go through just a small level 1, it's gonna cost about $5,000. Just so everybody's aware of
It's a lot of money.
what we're looking at here.
Well, it depends where it is. If it's in an area that's already built up and it's totally upland, no buffer zone stuff at all, I think we could comfortably let them get away with a lot less than this.
If someone's adding 3 parking spaces though, and they have to bring in drawings, that's what I was wondering for the
Yeah,
consultant.
if it's only, does it need to be a stamped drawing? That's the next question. Can they simply come in with a drawing, like for,
Schematic,
yeah, just something that's hand-done, non-professionally hand-done, that is representative of what we're gonna do, on the assumption that stormwater does not kick in, and there's no Conservation Commission issues.
how do you do that with a parking lot though?
Pardon me?
Isn't a parking lot gonna
If
be
you're
affected?
every parking lot, then it's automatically a,
Stormwater issue.
yeah.
I just think it's really important that if we're gonna be proposing this, that we understand the costs that's
Yeah,
associated
you're
with
absolutely
it.
right, Kathleen.
Because it's not, we're not talking a couple $100s, we're talking thousands of dollars. So, I'm not saying that I'm against it, I just want us to be aware of what we're requiring people and the costs associated with it.
I think what we could say is that certain items will be waived depending upon the nature of the project for level 1 applications. I think that could be worked out when the guy sits down with Martha in the first place.
Well, I think that goes back to the waiver of submission requirements. And we've
Yeah.
already said that
Yeah.
they can be waived or
Yeah.
adjusted depending.
Yep.
And we don't ask anything that other communities don't ask, so it's not, other communities ask the same thing and require the
Yeah,
same
this
thing.
is pretty standard.
So,
Or more.
yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, some are.
So I'm
a
not
lot
saying that
more.
we need to back down, I just think you just have to be educated in what you're requiring people, cost-wise.
And again, at least in terms of our, going through your concerns, West Newbury, Newburyport, and Georgetown all have, 1,000 and 500 square foot and above is their requirement. And so it's not like our neighbors are less stringent than we are in this. In fact,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the nature of the land that we're living upon. If this was.
John's right,
yeah.
what we're left with is
Yeah,
all the bad land.
Sure.
yeah, mostly. There's some that's not so bad, but, you know.
Well, okay, I mean, it is somewhat sobering, but also the fact that if it does get unwieldy and too costly, we can judiciously reduce that.
I don't think we should reduce fees, though. It might be requirements, but I don't think you should be reducing fees.
Well, you don't know.
I do know, I think they should cover Martha's time.
Right, but it may be that Martha spends an hour,
That's true.
Make it upon Martha's recommendation.
right? Based
I think
on what-
also the other thing is we're not dealing with residential except multifamily. And therefore, you know, one of the things always is the sort of penalizing people's quote-unquote property rights. What we're looking at here, I think, is essentially both environmental abutter and community protection. And if you don't do it, you end up paying for it one way or another.
Yeah, I think the way I read it and the way things are going in the town is that most of these issues are wetlands and environmental issues, which the town has a priority for.
Right.
So, okay, let's keep on going. That was good, though. And that was my major thing on this whole thing, I think. Although I did have a question of you, Martha. Where was this section before? This submission requirements and procedures? Because it's not in the.
Separate document.
It's a separate
Separate
document that's held by the town clerk, or by you,
Both,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, because I'd really not seen it before.
Right, number 6 under this, under the application procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little concerned that we have a 48-hour time span between the time that, for example, as I understand it, a department could come up with a fairly major problem.
Are you, which 6 are you in?
I'm under application procedure number 6. Preliminary level 1 and 2 review shall be both town staff. And then it says, okay, this is after,
Okay, so you're,
Yeah.
you're in application procedure. Got it.
right, yeah.
Got it?
Okay, number 6. And I'm looking at the last but one line where it says okay, and these comments will be available to the applicant or authorized representative at least 48 hours in advance of the date and time at which the application is first considered by the planning board at a public meeting or public hearing. I think that's too short a time. I think it should be at least 4 days. Should be at least essentially our town work week. Because it's not fair to an applicant to suddenly let them know a couple of days before they're getting ready to appear that, and I'm not picking them particularly, but let's say the fire department says the road's too narrow. I mean, it's major. You know, we've seen what has happened with some projects like that.
Yeah, I think David is right.
Yeah, he is right.
And that, you know, there are some town agents and boards and so forth that will do that to an applicant deliberately. Now,
Well-
I've been there.
Yeah, yeah.
Had that done too.
Right, yeah. Well, I didn't want
I
to
don't
sort of.
think we want to even
Right.
start to give that impression.
Yeah, and it just strikes me that you know, an applicant could really cry foul and say, whoa, wait a minute, you know, partly because we're looking at a situation where the applicant is not the engineer, but the applicant may be requiring the services of an engineer to answer the problem.
Why don't we just say 1 week?
Okay,
Yeah, 1
great.
week is
Yeah, I would think that's good.
That's fair, because your example, David, said if the road is suggested to be too narrow
Yeah,
for a fire department, that's an engineering issue.
well, it is,
And
right.
It's gonna take some time.
Yeah. You know, and equally, of course, some of them are quite small and simple, but I think,
The engineer is not the guy's employee. I mean, he,
right,
take him 3 or 4 days just
exactly.
to clear his desk.
Um,
to do it.
And the other thing was, I was a bit surprised that in number 7, that we were taking on the responsibility of sending out notices. And I'm not sure also,
Butters, notices to.
well, the town planner shall send written notice of the meeting, okay, by first-class mail to all immediate abutters.
The applicant normally does they?
The applicant normally does that, plus it doesn't say what the written notice should be, and I think it should be frankly one that tells us that they've gotten it. In other words, it should be a return receipt requested.
Well, the Concom requires that, certified.
Yeah, that it should be you know, because otherwise, once again, you're in a situation where somebody can say, well, I was, you know, traveling or whatever, and I didn't see it, or I never saw it, it never got to me.
I guess the only question I've got is that I mean, I still think that Martha should send it out, but it's paid for by by the applicant.
But normally we have the applicant do it, don't we?
But why would?
Well, in the case of a
I'm not sure
public
if
hearing,
I'm not sure that, it's our process. Why would we have the applicant mail something out?
Because that's the way it's normally done,
Yeah, but I
I
don't,
would say. Maybe that's not a good reason, but it's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, some towns,
not.
the
I'm-
planning
actually
department.
do it.
Yeah, they send it
Yeah.
out and they get.
Some
they
will,
get
just so they
additional
know
ones.
it goes out.
That's,
That's like the
that's all I'm saying.
thing in the paper.
And just say, you guys pay for it.
Is that how you've done it in the past? You have, okay.
yeah, because in the case of major one, it's gonna be a public hearing, and so it has to
Right.
follow that process, but
Just
I was
add,
just a bit concerned that this, you know, and again, we're always not talking about Martha per se, but whoever's doing this should, I think, have a clear record of the fact that it happened.
that's right. 'Cause
And
it's-
if it
it's a-
didn't
It's one
happen-
of those things that you just get killed on.
Oh, absolutely. Even though in some,
Notice incorrectly sent.
yes,
Why put
right.
that on the applicant?
yeah, right, yeah, okay.
And by
Right.
certified mail return receipt.
And certified, okay? Martha, is that all right? You got that? And my only question in both of these, level 1 and level 2, so the level 1 remains as, if you add it up, it's a total of 95 days to decision, which is a lot better than it used to be. But I'm not clear on the number of days that we have for the level 2. Because it's 35 days to filing, and then of any application of a project shall file a decision with the town clerk 25 days after the closing of the hearing. And of course, the hearing could take quite some time to close.
Could be continued several times.
So you're saying that it might be possible to do one of these in 60 days? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Okay. It's most likely not going to be, because
Most
they'll
likely
be
not.
continued, but,
Yeah, interestingly, that's a goal that the state has with
well, I'd like to see it too.
43D. I mean, I don't know specifically that number, but I mean, the expedited
Yeah,
permitting process, they want it, you know, because they're basically saying, you're not gonna do business with people unless you could say you can turn it around.
well, if we can theoretically do a level 2 in 60 days, why do we need 95 to do a level 1?
Well, I think we need, what we're saying is up to.
Actually, it's 60 days for the level 1, 'cause it's 60 days from the date the application is submitted to the board.
Yeah, which,
Let me read that. Oh, okay, okay.
So theoretically.
It's not additive, I added it,
Yeah, it's not additive.
sorry.
right,
I've got 2 or 3, and I have not finished. I did not jump right on this when it came in. On page 2, under 4, the narrative briefly describing and so forth, we're gonna have a drawing, and, I think we need to, for at least the level 2, be thinking in terms of some design requirements we might want to have, such as buffer zones between parking and the property line, maybe. We may want to have islands within the parking lot of some sort. And there's no doubt other things that we might want to say here for a large project. And I don't know what they all are, but by next meeting, I'll have figured out what I think on that. And the other thing is, the drawing prepared by a PE or architect. Martha, please don't hate me, but there are some architects that are very good at site plans. A great number are not. The PE is required for the Concom, and if they got that level, you're gonna have an engineer doing it anyway, because the Concom doesn't accept an architect thing, or the DEP doesn't. Or maybe we say landscape architect, and
Yeah.
they are trained to do site plans. They do generally a
I'm
quite
okay
a
with
good site
landscape
plan.
architect.
Yeah,
I think that's right. Just don't have it be a lawyer.
I would love to do it.
I want to tie, I don't know exactly the right language, but I want to tie the drawing requirements, the submission requirements into the stormwater rules and regulations, like we did the subdivision rules. We took the subdivision rules and made their drainage refer to the stormwater rules and regs, and I think we should do the same thing here. We do under R, 5R.
Right, I
Yeah,
was just looking
yeah.
at that.
We're going to DEP, which is not in conflict, because that's all our rules and regs say.
Right.
But I think we should,
So you want to do
make
more
it-
than, you want to do more than that?
rather than say that, just say the Newbury, because the DEP is included.
Okay. Well,
And the Wetlands Act stands on its own, that is legislation no matter what we say.
okay. Anything else, John?
I don't think so, I think that was it. I may
Kathleen?
have something after I
No.
read it more carefully than
David?
I had a chance to.
no, not on
George.
the,
Yeah,
right now.
Paragraph 10 on the last page, or next to the last page. Time within which the planning board must act upon an application may be extended upon mutual agreement. Does that refer to the 35 days on paragraph 8? The planning board shall hold a public hearing within 35 days? I'm not sure what it means. That's why I ask.
I think in the past, we've always interpreted that to mean that if the applicant asks for it, we are willing to consider it. But we don't have, it has to come from the applicant.
We can ask them.
We can ask them,
Frequently, they will
but
agree
it,
rather than start a fight.
yeah, it's a mutuality, but
Yeah.
but it has to
We
be,
can't tell them.
right,
We have to be,
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
that's, I
But
think.
you do have at the end of
thrust
this, you have a
that.
question mark at the end, though, Martha, on item number 13, the appeal. You want to know who the appeal should be made to.
Yes,
So we haven't,
Yep.
we have discussed that in the past, but we haven't discussed it today.
right, we had, in the original one, we had the ZBA.
And I think that Linda's comment was, I don't think so. Am I right?
I tend to agree with that. I'm not sure who they should appeal to, but that,
Yeah, and this is with the tiered ones, I mean, I can see level 2 going to a court of competent jurisdiction. Level 1, I wasn't so
it's
sure.
a shame, but I'm not sure that there's anybody in the town government that really should be in a position to overrule us on this one.
Well, it has to be there, doesn't it?
It's the old joke, the planning
does.
board is right,
I don't know,
always
that's my
right
question.
until the judge says we're wrong.
I think you have to have an appeal.
For level one, it's difficult. That's a costly issue.
Sure it is.
That's a good point.
Well, so how would, if somebody did want to appeal, how would you suggest you handle that? Because all the reference I've ever seen to the site plan review level 2 stuff is don't do it in the community, go to the state level. Go to the.
Right.
What about level one?
Well, that's why I'm asking you, what would you see as being a reasonable review? By a specially appointed committee? You know, comprised of a member of the planning board, the conservation commission, and a board of selectmen? I mean, something like, you know, I
And the
mean, what do
town
you,
council?
and the town council?
That's
Or
all.
maybe it's the town council. Would they accept?
Not sure that the town council would want to potentially overrule
Yeah, they're
the
not gonna
decision
wanna
of the
do that.
planning board.
That would be awkward.
Yeah,
Right.
especially
You don't
because
wanna go
council might have been
selectmen.
advising the board through the process.
Yeah, and we're an elected
Suppose you
body.
could throw
and
that in.
It's hard to.
I don't.
Well, I just thought if you want a representative group, you've got to pull from, at least it's good to pull from 2 of the elected. Maybe, hey, how about this? The planning board, the conservation commission, 1 member of each, the board of selectmen and the assessors. Because they're fair, you know, I mean, stuff comes in front of them which, you know,
Why,
maybe
how
they
many
wouldn't
people do
want
you
to do
need?
it, or the ZBA. Hey, what's
But
wrong
we
with the
don't have a
ZBA?
standing committee like that. It would have to be drawn from those members, right?
Yeah,
And then you have to have those members willing to do that.
Maybe this is a question for Ginny to see.
yeah.
To ask
That'd be
Jenny.
good.
I knew you'd come up with a solution.
Right, ask Ginny.
Oh, ask Jenny. I'm gonna write that right here. Ask Jenny.
Right.
All right.
I have one question, back on page 3, under the plan requirements, it's number E. Originally, it said existing and proposed wetlands, floodplains, and water bodies, and it didn't seem to make much sense to have proposed wetlands, floodplains, and water bodies, so I struck it out, but I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah, you're right.
that made sense to everybody.
Yeah, you're right.
And I added the ACEC, which didn't seem to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done with this? Anybody else want anything else to say on this?
At the moment.
Well done. Thank you for
Yeah.
getting this out in a timely way,
I didn't know
because
we were
this is a major issue for us.
Also,
So-
my comment would be, I think it works real well with our proposal for the bylaw now.
Yeah.
In other words.
No, and that was,
they
we really
fit
just figured that
together
out
well.
the last time.
Yeah,
All right, so, flood hazard overlay district revisions. That's in the doc, but I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say. That's, the red lines that I put in there, it's all from Colleen Bailey at DCR.
Right.
Those are the panel numbers that are changed and the dates. I think the only question is we now make reference to the AO zone, and there is none in Newbury anymore. And Colleen said we could leave that reference in if we want to. So I have a question into Doug to see what he would recommend.
Why did one of them removed? How were they eliminated?
All we have are AE and VE zones now.
yeah.
The AO zone is
AO,
gone.
AO was an overtopping zone.
right.
What was AO?
Overtopping, when it washed over the dune
Yeah,
and
the
ended up in the basin.
Overwash.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's happened in 2 or 3 locations along Northern Boulevard.
Of course, it could happen
Gone to the
again.
basin in at least 2 locations that
It
I'm aware
changes,
of.
yeah.
I was gonna say, it could happen again. Leave it in.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
it
that can't-
may
that
reappear.
could happen
Yeah,
easily.
yeah, it may reappear.
Especially, did you see where they had the photo and so I went to look at the site, it's on Annapolis, I think,
Well,
Annapolis.
it's the intersection.
Where
yeah.
the property goes down,
Yeah.
and two properties had, put stone and the other one didn't, and it just, went in 25 feet.
Build a
And
new
just
cove.
eroded the thing,
Yeah.
built a new cove.
Well,
Well,
that's a classical result of
Yep.
doing exactly that, like
Right.
what the
yeah,
hell did you
I mean, it bore up what the DEP's been saying all along, and that is you can't have spot
No, you gotta do the whole thing.
remedials.
And
It
well,
doesn't
the
work.
Bennett Hill thing is
Yeah.
a classic
Absolutely right.
example.
And even they don't. Anyway, I did have one question, and that is, I know you sent us the whole thing. When we do this at town meeting,
It's not gonna be the whole thing.
no, because it's an awful lot of paper for
Yeah,
not.
no, I just did it to put it all in
Yeah,
context.
okay, no. And then the same would be true, I think, with the stormwater change, if we change it to the,
Concom.
Yes.
the Concom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
Okay,
okay.
then the changes to zoning district boundaries.
We had
Oh.
talked about this,
Could I, just before we go on, is there a reason why the severability clause has disappeared totally from our zoning?
The what clause?
The severability clause, I cannot find it at the end of anything in our zoning.
oh, really?
You mean if they, of course, strikes down one paragraph, it doesn't strike down the whole document. Is that correct?
They put it in the solar bylaw.
Well, I just went through quickly today, looking at things that I know that I wrote, and it seems to have gone. And it's,
It's Article 12,
I was gonna say general, 129, page 129.
page 129. It's called validity, but it says basically the same thing. The invalidity of any section or sections or parts of any section, blah, 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 shall not affect the validity of the
Maybe you
remainder of
didn't
the
get that
bylaw.
one, because it's just this one little page.
What page are you on?
Right here.
It's 129.
right, well, okay, there, and I don't know, maybe this is poor Ginny again. There is a school of thought out there that says it needs to be at the end of any newly enacted bylaw until such time as you've had no challenges. In other words, putting it at the end of all of the zoning is the problem we had with some stuff before that applied to all of the zoning.
It does say any section.
Yeah,
So that,
but if you look at other people's bylaws, they nearly always have it at the end, and the problem is putting it there, it looks like it.
ask Jenny,
you know.
I think it's okay, but ask Jenny, because it does say any. It says, any section or sections or parts of any section or sections of this bylaw.
Right,
Anyway, let's check it out. Check it out. Okay, where were we? Oh, the zoning, zoning district boundaries, which I think are mop-ups from last year.
Yeah, they were specific, well, there are three that we
Where are
haven't
they?
changed it. One is the Parker River Marine District. The boundaries were never changed. They're a little
Right.
funky. The commercial highway at the AL Prime gas station and the commercial highway A.
Is that Scotland Road?
No, that's
The business
Byfield
park?
Business Park, yep.
How is that off?
It's,
I thought we did by parcel.
we didn't touch that one.
no. No, we didn't.
Well,
And our
can
map
you, for the
actually
next
doesn't-
meeting, can you just have what those look like and what would have to be adjusted? And it sounds like it'd be simple to do.
Wait, what did we change then?
We changed
We
commercial
changed,
highway at Pearson Plaza.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's correct, but it's not,
And-
it
and
is
Route
correct?
one.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct,
that's what I
but-
was confused
Right.
about.
But we didn't do where the prime is, and we didn't do where the other thing is.
Scotland Road.
Well,
Scotland Road is.
Scotland
fine,
Road is
that
spelled
actually-
out that way
But I
now.
thought that the business park, right, was okay, though.
It's another
No.
one where it's an offset from,
Well, anyway, so
Yeah,
those sound like they
it
ought to be
runs
done.
through the middle of a lot,
Where the
right?
fertility center is.
Oh, the Expo,
right,
which is not the Expo
So-
anymore, but we
Yeah.
call it the Expo.
Right, whatever that is.
There are some other lots there, and the other problem is that when it comes down onto my map, the way the polygons fall, it's weird. I mean, it looks as though it sort of dropped out of space and missed.
it's better now, but it's still,
It's still strange, though.
So should it be defined by parcel, or should it be
Yes.
defined another way? I know that MVPC would like it defined by parcel to make it easy when they're in the maps. I believe that's how Gerard said before.
Well, the problem is, if you don't define it by parcel, what do you define it by? And if you define it by parcel and one of them somehow is weird, why is that one? What we've got now is it is defined reasonably well by parcel, but there's one parcel, that parcel that's like 3+ acres, where the people came in and they wanted to do,
Oh, on the other side,
one that-
right?
yeah,
right, the
and
house.
isn't it that one that has the line running
Yeah,
through
I
it?
think, and the line doesn't actually
Okay.
correspond to the written description.
It doesn't, right, yeah, so.
So
I-
let's-
I guess the question is, do we want to tackle this for the spring?
Yeah.
or put
Well,
it
let's
till
see what,
fall?
let's see what, if it's simple, let's do it.
Well, we're not making any major changes, right? It's just
No.
a clarification of what
It sounds
is
like
under
it's-
the impression it is.
It's cleaning up.
Right.
I think somebody should be talking to the landowners, though.
But if it's not any
No.
changes, though, there's
There's
no changes. There's no,
Obviously not, no.
that's what we
but-
just said,
that's
there's,
right.
there's no changes, it's just clarification in the document to be clarified with what,
Okay, all
Well,
right.
it
Well,
could
wait
be
a minute.
It would be
There,
changes.
it sounds like there could be some changes in some lines.
Right.
I thought
Yeah.
there was changes.
Right.
There were changes.
Well,
Let's see what, let's see what you're talking
Okay,
yeah.
I'll
about,
put-
okay?
The major one is the gas station.
That's a tricky one.
On
Yeah.
the master plan update, we need to meet, Martha is very busy doing this other stuff. Maybe you and I can get together early next week or something.
Sure.
Is that okay with you, Martha, or do you still want to try to join us, sir?
I'd like to join you if I can.
Oh, you can.
but
Then can we aim for next Tuesday morning?
I think so.
Tuesday morning?
I think that's okay, I will let you know, yeah.
Okay. That's the 27th, Around-
Right, I think I'm
around
in
10.
the dental
Yeah,
chair
I
the
think
day
so.
before.
Would be able to come.
Oh, it's just cleaning. Tune-up,
Um,
as my gal calls it, tune-up.
what's today? 22nd?
22nd.
And that would be the
28th.
29th?
Next
It's the
Wednesday's
28th.
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 28th, yes.
Okay. The February meeting schedule. So Martha needs to take, not once needs to take,
is,
and is taking some time
A
off
few days off.
Good.
in early February, and that's when our meeting
Yeah.
is scheduled. And so the question for the board, as you know, I'm away. So do we want to have one meeting in February, or do we want to move the meetings to the second and fourth Wednesdays?
The one issue with the second Wednesday, which is the 12th, is that's the night that the Historical Commission is meeting on the demolition delay.
And
bylaw.
you're going to go to
I'm gonna
that?
go to that.
Oh,
But it could be another night.
Okay.
What's it look like for workload at this point? We will have that subdivision or whatever from, on Parker Street for the first meeting, maybe.
Yeah, they would like to come in for the first meeting. I know Mark is hot
turn up the schedule.
to get.
Yeah.
What's the schedule she handed you?
Oh, you didn't have that?
I just, I don't know where I put it.
There's your dates, right here.
Just. Here I have it, right here.
So don't screw it up.
So, Martha, in order to meet
Pisces.
the requirements for what we've discussed for the annual town meeting and be ready by March 5th, do you think we can have one meeting, or do you think it
February or
requires two?
February 19th.
And I think most everything is in pretty good,
Where is that?
it seems to be moving along okay. The one unknown really is the medical marijuana bylaw, which we still need to,
Yeah, I mean, the procedure there is we have the workshop, and then in March, we'll need to have a public hearing.
well, and that'll coincide with the public hearing for the
Right.
rest of the zoning.
So we
but we'll need
assume,
to- we'll
trying
need-
to,
So do you understand, does the board understand that if we're going to make to refer all our zoning amendments to the Board of Selectmen on March 5th, we have two meetings, and we're saying we're gonna cancel, so we'll have one meeting. So in that next meeting, we have to get everything ready for that referral.
And again, the language doesn't need to be completely sorted out, but we need to have some
Right.
idea. of
so
what's-
so based on that, I'd say that you should meet twice and just move the dates.
I would think that would make sense. I'm
yeah.
nervous about meeting only once.
I'd say you meet on the, what are the dates? In February?
February, yeah.
12th and the 26th.
12th and the 26th.
The
Now, one of
19th?
those, Martha,
Are you
can't
getting
be
rid of
there.
Are you getting rid of the 19th now?
Yeah. Well,
You don't
What
have
if-
to.
You don't have to, but it just that, you want to do the 2 weeks in a row?
Well, the 12th is a historical commission.
Oh,
But we don't want to do
So
that.
do-
So I
the
think we
19th
don't want to
and
do that.
26th.
What if,
Well, 19th and 26th, there's nothing wrong with that.
If we
Well, you
don't need
pick
the
other
26th,
nights.
so we can cancel it.
Yeah.
Can we do another night? Or can you do another night,
I
Like
could,
a Thursday or something.
like a Thursday night?
yeah, I
Usually
could-
tough getting meeting space here,
Yeah, you have to usually.
pretty
Well,
well tied up.
Thursday's not too
Thursdays.
bad. Except for ZBA is the only board that meets here on
I'm
Thursdays.
the only one I know of, but I don't know them all.
But,
Well, if we have our meeting on, the next meeting would be the, not the, when we would meet on the 5th, the 12th would be the 19th. And if we decide at that time that we need to meet the following week, can't we just schedule it at that our next meeting?
could do that. Do the 19th and the 26th.
Maybe we can finish everything in our next meeting, and if we
Fine.
don't, then we schedule it.
Can we-
Are you
Fine.
gone
Wouldn't
for
it
the
be
whole
easier to
month?
schedule it and cancel? If we don't need it, then the reverse?
Fine, do that, 19th, and if you need it, do the 26th.
I do apologize. I usually try not to take time. when
Don't
we have meetings, but-
Are
apologize.
you kidding me?
You don't
Everybody
have to
else does it, not
apologize.
Please.
We all do our thing.
All right, so, you're gonna do
Oh,
the...
I have a question in
19th.
regard to the demo delay. Where is that? I mean,
I haven't, I'm assuming, I got an email from Channing saying that they're going to, and this was nothing formal, saying that they're gonna have a meeting on the 12th, which I think is their normal meeting night, and I think they meet at the library, but nothing's been confirmed.
well now, it's, you sent a copy of that to us, and I couldn't figure out whether he didn't register on the, essentially, I think, the requests we were making, or was ignoring it.
You'll find out on the 12th.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, are we going as a, to meet with them as,
No.
or
This
what?
is their meeting.
Yeah, the way, it's their
And
meeting.
he's invited
and-
town
And he
boards.
called, he said departments, town departments.
Yes.
He phrased it.
Well, I think we need to find out, what he's expecting, because I have a sense that they maybe aren't too super on process. In the sense that, there is a difference between a department and a board,
Right, right.
rather significant difference. Well, how do I put it gently? I think we're the most, by necessity, we are the most experienced zoning and bylaw drafting board in the town, with the greatest resources, and therefore it seems to me that you would naturally rather come and talk to us.
Well, I will see what else I can find out, but that's basically what came
Right,
back.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Liaison reports, the Board of Selectmen, nothing for, although I did attend meetings that the members were at on that Merrimack River Beach Association, Booth Tar, and that I think has gone pretty well. But next Tuesday, I will appear before the board and just inform them of what we intend to bring forward for town
I
meeting,
think that would be good.
right? So on that, is that the 20, now I assume that's the 28th, right? That is the 28th.
Yes.
So I'll be there for that, and then we'll explain where we're going with town meeting.
So I'll let Kathy know.
Let Kathy know, okay? Anything else on the board that you'd want to bring up?
No, I mean, a lot of it's really been discussion about Plum Island.
Yeah, it really has been. Although, the David and George and Martha and John, and John and myself were at that Community
It's the CPA.
Preservation
I
Act,
was not there.
and I thought that went very well. I was surprised at how well it went. So we'll see what the next steps are. I'm not sure. But it was I suppose you'd say you're cautiously optimistic. I don't know. What did Tracy say about it?
I think she thought it went very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it went very well.
No, it did, yeah. He's very savvy
He's
guy.
very good.
He's done a lot of
Yeah.
that sort of work.
Right.
Um,
Okay, on the MVPC, anything, David?
Well, this is sort of indirect in a way, but I don't know whether you have all seen a letter in the Daily News today from Mike Morris, who is the chairperson of Storm
I
Surge.
did
Yeah,
see
I read
that.
it.
Right. There's that. There was also another letter from a resident of Plum Island, Mr. Watt, I think
I
it
saw that
was.
one too.
Right,
Lot,
yeah.
He does a lot.
Bob Watts, yeah, he's a.
Okay, so I've been talking with the environmental planner for Portsmouth. I think I mentioned this before, last meeting. I had another conversation with him, and in the process also discovered that the town of Hull has looked at an overlay district for part of their beach area, where they've used a device essentially of rewarding people who do things like increasing the height of the piles that they may use to raise their house, etc. In addition to that, I will send you this, the Environmental League of Massachusetts, one of their staff has written a very good article about the need for both the state and local communities to essentially identify both individuals and, let's say, municipal and state groups to really start working with the whole issue of the dangers of coastal erosion and what sort of coastal defenses, if any, are possible, et cetera, et cetera. And I think all of this tends to get pushed aside when somebody's house is going to be washed away, because what we tend to deal with, understandably, is the immediate danger of tomorrow morning or whatever. And I think it's going to be incumbent upon people like ourselves, boards like ourselves, to begin to look at a much further out kind of concern, because I think what Mike said in his letter to the editor is true, and that is essentially Plum Island is going to move, and we are not going to have anything to say ultimately about where it moves to.
It's doomed.
Right, and essentially what we need to be thinking about is how we cope with that eventuality that's not done on a sort of firefighting basis. And therefore, on the basis of essentially having all of the taxpayers, both in the town and in the Commonwealth, frankly, sustaining, the expenses of stuff which we might not really have to do. So enough said, but I will send you those materials.
On that note, I think it's a week from next Monday, this same Storm Surge group is meeting in the Newburyport Public Library. And I was very pleased to see what the subject was, because I felt like all of these talks, however good they were, and they've been excellent, they're preaching to the choir. You're not there if you're not a believer. But this one is Mike and John from Newbury, Bob Cook, who's a retired fire chief in Salisbury, and the present Amesbury fire chief are, and Tommy Howard from Newburyport, are going to have a presentation in the Newburyport Public Library. And I believe there's some sort of a scenario. There's going to be a mock calamity of some sort that has to do with sea level rise. And they're going to lay it through.
Right. Yep.
I really think we need to get serious about the nuts and bolts of this, not the emergency response so much as the long-range planning. I mean, roads at Orchard Street's gonna be impassable several times a month in the not-too-distant future. The freshwater for shallow wells sits on top of the salt water. What the hell do we think is gonna happen when the salt water rises? Because the sea has risen. You know, we may be back to using cisterns like they did in the old days.
Right. Yeah.
We need to be thinking seriously about how to deal with these things in the nuts and bolts fashion. Is Concom up at this point?
Yep.
I failed to pass on something that will absolutely delight everybody, I'm sure. A letter came in on the 20th to Sam and Doug. Williams and Sparagus wrote the letter, and they spelled out the legal rationale why, if they change the use of the philosophy of the Scotland Road solar project, they don't need any permits at all. And it looks highly probable that they're right. Rich was in last night at the Concom meeting, and he was asked to come back with some further pieces of information, but it doesn't look too promising. What they're talking about is something in the order of 130 buildings that are about 3,900 square feet. They will not have slabs, they will just be the building with posts holding up a greenhouse, and there'll be a transparent.
John, is the greenhouse glass?
Yes, as I understand
I
it.
thought they were film.
Oh, pardon?
I think they're
The
film.
Okay, the greenhouse itself is film, okay.
I believe so.
Yeah, and the photovoltaic unit is a transparent one, apparently, and I'm not at all familiar with that. But that, it goes, the light goes right through it, in other words.
So it's the same size area that they were talking about before?
Oh, boy, I don't know, I
Close to
really
the
couldn't
street.
say, I haven't looked at the plan in detail.
So
But
it's
it's
a
moved back
larger-
to the street.
It's a larger area and it's closer to the street?
Right.
It is right on the street now.
Yeah.
It used to be
Yeah.
down back by the river, now it's forward to the street.
I think maybe 30 feet back or something
Yeah,
like
it's-
that, pretty
it's-
close, with 10 feet between the greenhouses.
Yeah, it's gonna be hideous, that's all there is to it. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of ways to
So why
What
would
you
this
find it-
work if the last one did it?
Agricultural.
Agriculture.
All of these
Right to farm.
greenhouses will have allegedly an agricultural use.
Oh, they'll use.
And you can put an
this.
agricultural use anywhere in the world, or anywhere in the state, at least.
And what will be,
Pardon me?
and what will be the agricultural use?
Remains to be seen, but
Marijuana.
anything you can do in a greenhouse will be the agricultural use. And you can grow,
And how many
Cacti.
thousands of square feet of
oh, a
total
lot. I
greenhouse?
figured it out the other night and I've forgotten,
That's 3,900 times 100.
30
yeah,
Well,
it's,
4,000 times.
it's some inordinate number of, it's between 15 and 20 acres, no, 13 acres worth of.
600,000 square feet?
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
somewhere off in that
Well, I
direction.
can't imagine that there's the demand for that much square footage. I just can't, to farm.
Right. One of the things that Doug pointed out that might help in the thing is that agriculture has to provide 51% of the income.
Yes,
And if they build everything to get the maximum return on the power they sell,
right,
then that's gonna way outweigh even in the best of circumstances, because they're not gonna peddle all their buildings at once. If they only build 4 or 5, because that's all they've leased, then they may not be able to sell that much to the grid
Right, because
because of the
Right.
volume.
yes.
The KVA won't be there. And if they build more on spec and sell more power to the grid, now that their income, power is 75% of their income, it's no longer agricultural.
Plus, they would have
Oh.
to have a very high yield, both in terms of actual yield and also profit margin product. How about cannabis?
That occurred to me, I did not want to bring it up, but it's a
you
very
can't
obvious,
high
high
grow,
yield kind of,
you can't grow cannabis just to grow cannabis.
Well, I know, I mean, but you know, what I'm
Well,
simply
you can-
saying is that
You can only grow it if you're tied to a dispensary,
right, but
Right.
that would be an obvious market, I would think.
but
That's
you'd,
limited though.
It's limited. It's
Yeah.
very limited, based on what we
Right.
just found out.
Right,
You're not gonna have 507,000 square feet of
exactly.
No,
cannabis
no,
being
it'll
grown.
be a thing, it won't be
Yeah.
the thing.
It might just be a small amount, and they'd have to then contract with a provider and a dispensary somewhere near here
Yeah.
to provide and it'd have to be highly secured.
Oh, I was not being serious because,
I mean,
you know,
the requirements that the state has for security are just
I
enormous. So,
I would think so.
plus
so-
it would consume all the power they were
plus it would,
producing.
that's right. So I don't see that happening, and I.
But what could you grow
don't
that's return?
Well, I guess you
Potted
can.
plants, the kind of stuff, potted plants, flowers.
Yeah, but in
Certain
the-
vegetables,
this-
Matthew grows vegetables,
In the
grows
fall
lettuce year
season
round.
world we live in,
Yeah, I mean, you can grow some stuff year-round. My neighbor has got an organic farm, and he has 2 greenhouses like
Right.
these, that he grows lettuce year-round.
Yeah.
He just does it. But
Right.
I don't see 130 of them.
well, I mean, we have an example in town which is quite large, which is what Matt Kazaki's doing
Sure.
at Tender Crop.
Sure.
And he's doing everything for livestock through plants, but they're all pretty narrow marketplaces.
Yeah.
And the 51% thing is, I think, very
That's an
important.
interesting
And
part
if
of it.
Matthew were not selling retail,
Right,
he would be just barely in business. If not, he'd be out of business already. The smart thing he did is cut out the middleman.
Sure.
But something like this, if they're not in a retailing mode, it's not gonna be a high margin business.
So, John, what's the next step in this?
He's been asked for several things, and when we get him, we'll have another look, and Doug is gonna talk with Tracy, with Ginny.
So
this
the,
point.
this lies, though, with the Concom and the Board of Selectmen? Where does this lie? Or is it,
It's
Maybe
in a
nowhere.
number of, actually, they're buildings, so it's a zoning Sam
It's-
Goslin.
it's Sam,
Goslin,
it's Sam.
Situation. It is in a wetland, so it's Concom as
Sam
well.
and Doug? Okay,
Um, And unfortunately, agricultural uses more or less obviate
sure.
chapter 131. It just goes away.
Right, and site plan review doesn't apply because
Yeah, I
it's
was
an
gonna ask
agricultural
about
use.
that. Is
Doug
there
and I
any-
talked,
Agriculture does wipe that out. Okay, I was wrong. I was kinda hoping that the
yeah, it
volume
does.
of
yeah.
impermeable surface would cover it.
Yeah, I'm not
But
sure they can do it, though.
agriculture is exempt.
yeah,
Right,
and
though.
it's, site
me?
plan review is subject only for non-residential and non-agricultural
Okay.
projects, so.
Okay, anything else, John?
No, that's it.
That's good news.
Isn't that enough?
Interesting stuff. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
We are adjourned.